movies are one of those times that provide escapism from that everyday life where you can just relax and maybe you can turn your brain off or you can just appreciate what you're watching and just have a really good time watching all of this stuff. But today we're going over the top 20 favorite films of all time for me, the movies that I will put on frequently, and these are interchangeable. A lot of these are very interchangeable. When I was editing some of these, I really had to keep editing them around because I just was like, nope, no, this film's better. No, but oh no, but this one, oh god, yeah, ah. So this was really difficult to have to get into top 20 zone, but I am slowly expanding. Possibly I will do a top 30 soon. So this was really difficult, and it was a really difficult challenge. But with all that said, let's get started. At number 20 is Halloween from 1978, the horror classic. This is a great film. It is a film that is really good at It's really good at going for tension. It's not trying to be gory and trying to create shock value for the sake of shock value like some films. Hello, Alien vs Predator, Requiem. But this is a film that is trying to just this is the thing. This is like the film that created and like kicked off the horror slasher genre. So it is a important film. It's regarded as probably the most celebrated horror film of all time. It is probably the most celebrated horror film of all time, and is a Halloween classic. Well, duh, it's named Halloween. Michael Myers is a proven classic villain. He is easily my favorite of all the horror icons. He is easily my favorite of all of them. You got people like Chucky and Ghostface that are close, but I would still give the edge to Michael. And it also, if you take a look at this film, if you watch the Rob Zombie version, I have not watched it, but I know it's very gory. But if you watch the Rob Zombie version, it's pretty brutal. But if you watch this, it's not very brutal. All he does is mostly choke people out, and a lot of the violence is mostly implied, and it's not usually shown. So, and there's like one scene where they snap or like slit a girl's neck, or slit someone's neck, or either snap their throat or something. And yeah, I didn't even notice. I had to look it up to see, and it's a really great watch. It's a bit on the slow side, which is why it's in the bottom of my top 20. But it is a great film. I absolutely love it. Just point of reference, all the films in my top 20 are 5-star films, easily. They are great, great, great films. So I love this film. It is a proven classic. At number 19 is Jaws. And was the first ever summer blockbuster, and is yet again another very important movie in the horror genre, and is the movie that kicked off the blockbuster era. And this is a film that made people afraid to go in the water, which is something that a lot of people can relate to, especially me, because the ocean is one of the scariest things ever, considering that it's basically endless, and also the fact is there's a lot of unknown creatures there, and since it's dark down there and swimming can get exhausting at times, and you're just alone out there, it can make you feel really scared. I'm just getting scared thinking about it now, so I'm just gonna stop the subject. But I think that there's great chemistry between our three main leads. I think the pacing's phenomenal. There's not a bad act in here. Hasta, I get you don't like the second act. I have no idea why. I love this film. It is a perfect film in my eyes. It's basically flawless. The chemistry is off the charts with our three main leads, as I said. I think that the third act, as soon as they get on the boat, it is amazing. Fantastic. I cannot gush about the third act of that film enough. And it's a PG movie, but it's pretty brutal for a for a PG movie. Like, if you take a look at it, it's pretty brutal, and like they really show you that they are not kidding around when they kill a kid when they kill a kid in the movie. They kill several kids, I think, in the movie. There's one in the beginning that is technically a kid. She's on the older side of kids, but she's technically still one. But there's also a little kid that gets killed. So they're showing you they're not messing around. Even if they are PG, they're going RPG. But I just invented a new rating system, RPG. But anyway, this is just a perfect film, and it is a great film. So if you love this film, then you're pretty much with everyone else. But this is a great film that is basically perfect in my eyes. At number 18 is The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring. This is just a phenomenal film. It's probably the most simple of the Lord of the Rings movies, but that's one of the reasons why it's so great. And if you're one of the reasons that I edge that this over Jaws is that scene with Frodo and Bilbo where he's like a. I think I'll try and show the clip. If not, I am sorry I did not show the clip. But anyway, that scene where Gandalf and Frodo are having their like final confrontation between each other. Well, they think it's their final confrontation when they're like farewell to each other.
I've thought up an ending for my book. And he lived happily ever after, to the end of his days.
And I'm sure you will, my dear friend.
Goodbye, Gandalf.
Goodbye, dear Bilbo.
That is a fantastic scene. It's just so well acted in the score they used to that. Oh, I gush about that. Oh, it's just so great. I love it. So I think the score in here is phenomenal. I think the opening is great. I think that this is a perfect film in my eyes. Most of the films in here I would say are perfect films. They are basically flawless except for little nitpicks which I can easily just look past. But it is a classic. It's widely regarded as one of the greatest films of all time, and for good reason. It is one of the greatest films of all time. It has great moments. I think that everything is explored here, and it's just such a great movie. So. At number 17 is Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. This is just such a great film. It's another one that I would probably say is perfect other than a few little nitpicks. I think all the films in here except for like maybe one or two are pretty much perfect films in my mind. They just have a few little flaws that hold them back. But this is just such a cinematic movie it has great moments like that scene where he's like, Indiana, let it go. Sean Connery is such a great actor. He is my favorite Bond of the ones I've seen so far. I have only seen him and Roger Moore, and I think we all know which one is better by far. And so I think that he is just so fun in this. He has a great counterbalance to Indiana, and it's just such a cinematic movie. And if you say that this is better than the Raiders of the Lost Ark, I totally agree with you. I totally understand. I will say I like Raiders a bit more. It's close, but if you think that this is better, I'm not going to be mad at all. I totally understand because this is a great, great, great film. I think that it's the most lighthearted and it has fun, so it's a lot better than having to go through like a very miserable experience with something like Temple of Doom, which is dark, disturbing, and has Willie in it. So it's much better to have a film that has a James Bond in it, the best James Bond I might add, with that's lighthearted than watch a dark movie with probably the most insufferable and annoying character that has ever been put to film. So this is just such a great, great film, and this is a fantastic film. I would say that this is a 5-star. Like I said, all the films in here are 5 stars, so just a great movie. At number 16 is Jurassic Park. And again, this is a perfect film in my mind. There's a tiny little nitpick here and there, but it's just a film that is one of the most rewatchable of all time. I think that the characters in here are great. I did prefer Jurassic World at one point, not anymore. I think this is easily by a landslide the best Jurassic Park movie. The characters are great. I think that our main lead, can't remember his name at the moment. He has a great character arc through the film. The dinosaurs are fantastic in it. The CGI is very not present because they don't use it much. That it's mostly practical, and they use CGI to like help them out, like assist, but it's very little. So they looked great. So everything in the film just looks so amazing, and it's shot really well. It has that Spielberg magic to it, just like Jaws. This is my preferred Spielberg movie that has the letter J in it, that is about a prehistoric beast. That's very ironic. He made Jaws and Jurassic Park, and both films have J as their title, have a vowel for their next thing, and are about monsters eating people. So, just so funny. But just a great coincidence, by the way. So, I think Jurassic Park is a great film. It's it's perfect in my mind. There's nothing wrong with it in my opinion, just like maybe one or two nitpicks here and there, not too much, but it's just a great film. Sam Neill plays the main character. So it's just a great film that I love to rewatch because of how it has that Spielberg charm, the great dinosaurs, and that moment where John Hammond is like, "Welcome to Jurassic Park," is just fantastic. And this is a truly cinematic experience that you want to see on the big screen. And I'm hoping if they ever release this back into theaters, which I believe they have a numerous amount of times, so hopefully they'll do it again. If they ever release this back in theaters, I will see it. I mark my words. I will make sure of it. I must. But this is just such a great movie. So bringing us into the top 15 is Scream. I'm going to say this. I have said this, I think, a few times on my channel. This is my favorite horror movie of all time. I know a lot of people prefer Halloween. This is more lighthearted, and to be fair, some of the voters at least one of the voters I know of for Halloween, that when I put out a community tab that's saying, what is better, Halloween or Scream? One of the people who voted for Halloween had not seen Scream or Halloween, so to be fair, I don't count that. So, by the way, Scream is just such a lighthearted movie, yet it's very bloody and gory, so it's not lighthearted at all. It's a movie that is good at having horror moments that are brutal, and this is a very brutal franchise, and is good at having brutal moments that are very scary, yet it also has funny moments that don't feel like they're out of place and like they're not tonal shifts in the plot. Like you go from something that's like you have an extremely scary scene and then you go and it's like a complete opposite scene. It's a completely big joke. They do that at like one or two times, but it makes sense. And why? Because it lands. The jokes are so funny. Like things like Randy explaining how if you want to survive a horror movie, you can never have sex. You can never do drugs. You can never say, I'll be right back. You basically can't be a teenager. Well, at least not one that's like in their 17 or 18. I'm going to sound really stupid saying that. Please forgive me for saying that. I know I probably just sounded like I'm pointing fingers at some people. I was not trying to, but it's... And they also do a great bait and switch with the main character, Drew Barrymore, and she is the star of the cover, and yet they kill her off within the first 10 minutes as a bait and switch, like, gotcha! And it is just such a great experience. It's easily a horror classic, and it is one of my favorite films of all time, so no wonder it's in this list. And I get a lot of people have a soft spot for Halloween. I just prefer this because it's more lighthearted. At number 14 is We Bought a Zoo. This is one of probably my favorite drama of all time. If I need to correct myself later in this video, I will, but I believe for now this is my favorite drama of all time. Oh wait, no, First Blood. I'll count that as a drama. So actually, no, that's more of a thriller drama with drama elements. And I'll just say this is with full on drama. This is my favorite. So this is a movie about Matt Damon's character having to overcome the loss of his wife and have to learn to be a single parent, and it's just such a great watch, yet such a sad watch, and it does a great job of acting. I think that the little girl, some of the lines, she's a bit, to be fair, she was young, so I'm not as critical on it as some people are on it when she is a bit, some of her line delivery is not the best because her acting is not the best, but we're not expecting an Oscar-worthy performance from a 6-year-old. Wait, no, 7? Yeah, I think she's 7. She's 7 or 8 years old. She's not old at all. And I think that the drama between the son and the dad is great, especially in that like one scene where they have a fight and the way everyone's just acting. That is Oscar worthy right there. The way Matt Damon acts. Hand him the Oscar for that year. He was great. I loved his performance. This is just such a great movie. I just can't. I'm just tearing up right now thinking of it and how such a great movie it is. And I think Scarlett Johansson's really charming in this. She's pretty much charming in all her roles that I've seen her in. I think this is the only movie, although outside the MCU, I've seen her in. Well, at least where you see her face. And things like her voice acting, I don't count. So, yeah. So this is just a fantastic watch. It's a easy 10 out of 10. It's basically a perfect movie, except for some of the acting with the little girl. But other than that, I don't have too much nitpicks with this. So this is a fantastic film. Number 13 is The Matrix, and over time, I have only seen this once and part of it another time. So, depending on when I rewatch this could go up because it is a bit confusing the first time you watch it, but this is easily a top 20 film. I think it has great action, just the way that they shoot it, with just the way that they use the martial arts and stuff, and the way that they have that slow-mo stuff. It's awesome. It just looks so flipping awesome. Just watching Neo like you do that like dodging type stuff, it's awesome. Everything about this movie is the epitome of awesomeness. Just everything. I think that Neo's awesome in this, and he's not too overpowered like I hear he gets in the sequels. Fast, he gets really overpowered fast. I mean, I'm not saying that people overpower him. I'm saying that he gets overpowered, as in he gets a lot of power in it, so he uses it, so it's not even a competition for the bad guys. They lose immediately. So I just think that Lawrence Fishburne's amazing in this role. He has great chemistry with Keanu Reeves. No wonder they brought him into John Wick. I think that it is a great film. It's the shot so well. So it's a great film. It's basically a perfect film in my eyes. So I absolutely love this film. Number 12 is John Wick Chapter 4. Put your pitchforks down and listen to me before you say this is not a classic and saying that this is better than Jaws and stuff. I don't care what you say. This is my opinion. And if you have a problem with my opinion, go find someone else that shares the same opinion as you. And if you don't have an opinion that people like, so you have a hot take, sorry. But anyway, John Wick Chapter 4 is a great film that has a mind-boggling action. The action is great in this film. Like, you watch this film and see the action, you're like, what on earth? This is such good action. And it is so well shot. The cinematography is off the charts. It looks great. It looks gorgeous. Like, just the way that it is shot. And it's a very long movie. It's like 2 hours and 40-something minutes. It is a long watch. And this is easily my favorite John Wick movie, my favorite John Wick sequel. And it gets a bit too over the top at times. So this is one of the movies I would not say is perfect, but it's close. It is so great. It's just the fact that John is getting a bit too... He's surviving stuff that no human should be allowed to survive. So it is a great watch, and I love the way that they use all the action in this. The guns are so awesome. The ending, they fumble the villain death a bit. But I'm not going to complain too much because to be fair, Chapter 2 and Chapter 3 are the only ones. Actually, no, I think Chapter 3 is the only one that didn't screw up its villain death, and to be fair, that's because it didn't have a main villain. And because Chapter 2's villain was a bit underwhelming, it came out of nowhere. Same thing with Chapter 1, same thing with Chapter 4. And Chapter 3, I'm not saying had a bad villain death because it didn't have a main villain, so you're just getting... I am not disappointed by the amount of people John Wick kills in 3, so I have a great time with all the John Wick movies, but 4 is just the gold standard now for what John Wick is supposed to be, so it is a great movie. Number 11, just shy of the top 10, is The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King. Well, this is just such a cinematic experience. This is a perfect film. It is a great film. It has so many great moments. I think that the scene alone where the guy on the poster, I think it's Aragorn or something, when he's like for Frodo and then just charges into battle, cinematic. That sends chills. I'm getting chills thinking of it right now. It's just such a great scene. The score is fantastic. The ending is powerful. I still cry when I watch it. It's just a big gut punch to see that happen, and it's one of the greatest movie endings probably of all time. It is a perfect film. I love it. I think everything about it is great. I think Frodo and how he never really recovered from that ring. He never really smiles too much after Two Towers. That's the last time we see him really happy in that. Even in Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, after the ring is destroyed, you still see the aftermath of what it had to him and how it pretty much traumatized him and how it took a toll on him, and it's just such powerful stuff. It is a perfect movie. It is fantastic and is one of the greatest films of all time. But bringing us into the top 10 is Star Wars from 1977. This is my favorite Star Wars film. I get that's a hot take. Most people will say The Empire Strikes Back is the best. This one is just more rewatchable. It came first. It's the most perfect of all of them. Empire kind of takes like sister brother like love triangle that was kind of implied with George Lucas in 1977, and it starts pushing it a bit more to the forefront in Empire Strikes Back. And I never liked it. A lot of people like to crack on the thing for Halloween, like they don't like the sister brother angle for Michael and Laurie. The thing I don't like in Star Wars is the sister and brother love triangle thing that goes on for A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back. I don't like that. I just don't like the idea at all. So I think that it's more implied in the first in 1977. Just such a perfect movie. It's just such a great cinematic experience. I think it's so rewatchable. I love the stuff on Tatooine. That is one of my favorite things about this movie. Tatooine is just a perfect thing in and of itself. And things like Jakku, which is a complete ripoff of how but just so you know, The Force Awakens, when it goes to Jakku is a complete ripoff of Tatooine. It is an unashamed complete ripoff, just nowhere near as good. And Tatooine is just such a great location that it's basically just a desert, but I love the concepts that it does with it, and things like the Force thing with Obi-Wan tricking the stormtroopers, which has been parodied many times before. R2-D2 and C-3PO. Just such a great film that I absolutely love, and it is easily one of my favorites of all time. Number 9, The Dark Knight. Sorry, Hasta. I know this is your favorite film of all time. I'm sorry. It was my favorite film of all time. It's just some of the flaws are starting to stick out a bit more. Like the fact is, I think that I don't like the recasting of Rachel. I don't think she has a very good chemistry with some of the actors that she plays with. I get Hasta tries to defend it. I don't really like it. And if you take a look at Joker's Joker's plan, which he's trying his hard, which you can tell, Hasta defends this, saying that he didn't care if he did. It seemed like he cared, man. It seemed like he was trying his hardest to get this thing to work. And if you take a look at his plan, with the fact that he wants to get caught but not get himself killed, but he also wants someone to be in the room with him when he's escaping. He wants someone to be in the room with him when he's escaping, and he also needs to make sure that there's something that he can threaten the guy with. And he also needs to make sure it's the person that he can overpower. And he also needs to make sure that the police and Batman don't get there in time. So it relies a lot on coincidences. So if something goes wrong, then that means that Harvey and Rachel could both survive, and it also means that his plan would have failed. So it's a little nitpick, but other than that, it's pretty much a great experience. I love it. It's a 10 out of 10 film. One of the greatest of all time. Just love it. I think Joker, played by Heath Ledger, probably the greatest acting performance to this day I've ever seen. I love the way that he is just so captivating, and he has his funny little moments, but he turns it off quick. He can go from having that little sense of humor with that little funny moments to he turns the switch on and off quick. He goes from being a kind of clever, wisecracking little guy. Well, not little. He's pretty imposing and a physical threat, but he goes from being that type of person to immediately he can do some things to you that you are afraid of this guy. And it was so amazing that Heath Ledger took his life from it. And it's just a great film that has great acting, so it's one of my favorites of all time. Number 8 is The Terminator. I know my Austrian accent sucks, but believe me, this is a great film. This is a great blend of genres where The Terminator is very much a thriller, but it's also a suspense film that also is an action film, but is also a horror film. It is a great blend of the genres where if you look at this, you may think it looks more like an action movie, and it looks more like an action movie because if you look up Apple TV and see what it says, the genre is, it says action. Dude, this film is more of a horror film if you take a look at it, because Sarah Connor is being slowly hunted, and this thing is just coming after her, like it's destroying the thing, and it's just it will not stop until it kills you, and it's brutal at times. It goes for the practical effects as much as it can. It had a bit of a low budget, so some of the, like, the stitching up stuff, it doesn't age as well as you would think, but it's still a great movie. If we were evaluating these by Rotten Tomatoes, this will be a number one, because this has a 100% of Rotten Tomatoes. That is how you know you have a great film. If 100% of your audience loves this, and you may say, let me guess, it only has like 10 reviews. Nope, it has like 50, 60 to it has like 60 to 70 reviews, and all of them were positive. That is a accomplishment, man. So this is just such a great film. And Arnold, which most people talk about when when they talk about the Terminator, they usually talk about Arnold. And I was surprised he's not in this too much. He's mostly relegated to mostly the cameo role. He's mostly the killer, but he's mostly kept in the shadows. It's mostly about Sarah Connor and Kyle Reese. Arnold's the Terminator. He's more of an afterthought and more of the killer mode, and I actually like that. It's more about the characters, and he's meant to show the audience how we're supposed to be, how these characters are going to react to it. And the police station scene alone is great, and that is just such an iconic poster and an iconic look with him in the leather jacket and stuff. I actually wore that as a costume for a Halloween thing, and it looked awesome. You know, I don't think it was, like, maybe one person knew I was the Terminator. Everyone else kept guessing I was Neo, and I kept having to say, no, Neo wears a full leather jacket. The Terminator wears a partial leather jacket. So this is just such a great movie and is a great blend of genres. But of all, it's probably the most like a horror film. So if we were evaluating these both based on horror films, this is, I would say it's more of a horror action, so it's not full on horror. So Scream is my favorite horror movie, but this is definitely a fantastic movie. At number 7 on my list is Rocky, the original film from 1976, and it's just such an iconic movie where Rocky's just such a likable character. Sylvester Stallone is one of the reasons he's just such a likable actor, likable person. The performance there is fantastic. I love the acting all around. I think it has perfectly paced. It's a perfect movie. I struggle to find anything negative to say about it. I think that Rocky Balboa is probably my favorite movie character of all time. It's just such a great film. It is a film that I watch a lot, and Sylvester Stallone is just such a great actor in it. It's just great how he can act so many great performances. And the way that they have the ending is, a lot of people forget that Rocky does not win in the ending of the film. He actually loses. And it also shows that it was not about winning for him at all. He just wanted to go the distance, and he doesn't even care at the end of the film. Like, if you take a look, he's like, as soon as they're announcing the winner, he's not even listening. He's just completely like, Adrian, and it's just such a powerful scene. And by the end, instead of actually thinking, now that he knows where she is, to see who won, he's more absorbed and more worried about things like, where's your hat? Where did your hat go? He's wondering where her hat was, instead of actually seeing if he won. He doesn't care about that. It's because it's a character study. The sport is more of a metaphor to show the journey of the character we're going on, to show the journey of the character. So it is just such a powerful ride, and I absolutely love it. At number 6 is Raiders of the Lost Ark. This is my favorite Indiana Jones movie, and I think what etches this one above Last Crusade is that it's just probably a bit more simplistic. It also, Marion's in this one, and I love her in this. She's just such a great person in this. I love her. She is in this one, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and she has a small cameo for a few minutes in Dial of Destiny, but this is easily her best performance. I love Indy in this film. He's just so great in this. Harrison Ford always is so iconic in this role. They kind of butcher him a bit in Dial of Destiny. I'm not going to lie. He's not treated the best in Dial of Destiny at all. But I do have a ton of fun with this movie. It also is just, I just noticed while I was watching this was action like one of the most iconic action sequences after iconic action sequence that have been parodied or copied or just used or shown so many times that not a single one I had not known before. They were all scenes that I had seen like little clips of. Maybe the plane thing at the plane thing when they're trying to escape and Marion's like in the plane and Indy's fighting that big guy. I had not seen that, but other than that, it's just such a great movie. It's a perfect movie in my eyes. It is fantastic, so I absolutely adore this film. Bringing us into the top 5 is Predator. One of the greatest films of all time. One of the greatest sci-fi horror films of all time. It's action, but it's also sci-fi, but it's also horror. So it's one of those big blends of genres, which is why I consider Scream still my favorite horror movie, because this is more of a genre blender than just a full-on blender. So I just find this movie so iconic. Like, the Predator design is fantastic. I just love it. Up in Front is so fantastic. I was so stupid saying it was a bad design in my Predator vs. Prey. Well, comparing it to the Prey one, I'm deleting that video after that embarrassment of a speech. That I should not have uttered that. That was horrible for me. But Arnold, fantastic in this. He's so iconic. And he has so many one-liners in this film. Stick around. Get to the chopper. Just so many utterly fantastic moments. If it bleeds, we can kill it. Just answer me one question down below. Say I need you guys to answer this question. Is my Austrian accent as bad as it sounds? Tag down below in the comment section right now. Is my Austrian accent as bad as it sounds? Say yes or no, your Austrian accent sucks, or no, it actually is a good Austrian accent, because based on what I can tell, it's a pretty bad one, but I think that it's a really good example of how they're very good at their details, and how it's the one Arnold Schwarzenegger vehicle that does not feel like it's an Arnold Schwarzenegger vehicle. And that's the biggest compliment I can give it, because all the other Arnold Schwarzenegger films feel like he's just dominating the screen presence. And in Predator, he feels like he's just another person in the on the team, and how he's not just blowing away everything. He pretty much is in terms of screen presence, but he's not like the big like the thing that everyone talks about. They also talk about the Predator. They talk about the pacing. They talk about a lot of things, but and by the end, the reason that Dutch defeats the Predator isn't because he looks like Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's because he was smart and he absorbed what the Predator was doing. He saw, and he decided to be clever. He uses his wits instead of his brawn, which, believe me, he has a lot of brawn. He's like back in the day, Arnold was like the biggest bodybuilder in the world. He was extremely awesome. So this is just such a perfect film. This is just a great film that I absolutely adore. Number 4 is Aliens. I love this film. I think the design of the Xenomorph is heavily competing with the Predator for my favorite monster design. It's so close. And I think that the Xenomorph in itself is just as scary as the Predator, because I think the Predator's less scary because if you take a look at it, the Predator, throughout several of the films, it actually does team up with the humans, and it will spare things like they have rules like they will not kill kids. Like, if you ever wonder why in Prey, why he stops himself right before he's going to kill Naru, and he actually just walks away, it's because she was injured, so he has a rule that he does not injure. He does not kill something while it's injured, or at least most of the time it doesn't. Sometimes they decide to break their rules a bit, and also because Naru, he could tell, was underaged, so he would not attack it. But as soon as she attacks, then that's when he's like, nope, she's dead. And Aliens is just such a great movie. It takes the premise of the first one of Ripley being just this great character, but she's more of a masculine character that's actually just a female in the first one, and they actually give her a maternal side to where she's much more. She's very maternal towards Newt. Yet it's also a horror film, but it's also an action film, and it's a sci-fi film. It's really good at the blend of genres. A lot of the films in here are blend of genres, and they are just so flipping good at it. I love it. The action's so great in here, and just the ending is just so superb, which Alien 3 then takes away from me. And yes, I have seen Alien 3. I completely despise that movie, by the way, just so you know. I cannot believe they could go from such a high praised, critically acclaimed, how amazingly, just amazingly fantastic film to a kick in the nuts like Alien 3, which you get. Because believe me, it is like a kick in the nuts when you watch Alien 3 after watching Aliens. You're like, you're kidding me? You go from Aliens and then what do you decide to do? This? Seriously. But this is a fantastic film that I cannot think of a single flaw for this film. Bringing us into the top 3, this got really difficult really fast. This was painful, and this was kind of like how Alien 3 was a kick in the nuts to have to watch. This was a kick in the nuts to have to put them in order, but in the end I decided that number 3 is First Blood. Great film, perfect film in my eyes, except maybe like one time that maybe a joke doesn't land because it shouldn't have been a joke. It should have just been completely serious like that. But I think that this is my favorite Sylvester Stallone movie. I'm sorry, I know Rocky is probably the better film, but I just prefer First Blood, and it's just probably more rewatchable for me, more consumable as an action fan. So I think that this is a great character study of Rambo and how it's a film where they're clearly showing that Rambo is broken and how he's just such this like broken Vietnam vet, and how Sylvester Stallone knew exactly what to cut, like how Rambo escapes the police station naked. Let's not have that. Like how Rambo guts several people, stabs several people in the eyes, and makes sure that his kill count is extremely big by the end. Let's cut that out as well. And there's just so many great moments, and how in the book, Rambo is shot and slowly dies because Stallone did not want the message of First Blood to be that he did not want to be sending a message that broken Vietnam vets are doomed to die and that they should die because they'll fly off the rails. Because that, I'm going to say, that was a horrible message to send. You do not want to send that message, because I can guarantee you I would not have liked the movie very much if they had done that ending. If you buy the movie, then you have access to the deleted scenes. That is one of the deleted scenes. It's really shows him dying. You see Stallone dying. They actually, I think, put that in theaters, and it was received so poorly that they had to then do reshoots to get not reshoots. They basically had to do that scene again, and they had to get that done because it was received so poorly, that ending. And I just thought that ending sucked. And I think that this is a much preferred ending. And I think that this is a great film. It's a character study of Rambo and how, in the end, he just snaps, and just starts crying about how everything and how what he went through in Vietnam, how people aren't treating him well, and how he just does not like this stuff, and how he just breaks down and cries in front of Troutman. And one of my gropes with Part 2 and Part 3 were that Rambo, he's just slowly diminishing throughout 2 and 3. He loses his depth, and how his trauma slowly just goes away. By 2, it's pretty much gone. Film Kid, I don't know why, but I have no idea why you hold 2 in such high regards. It has good action, but if we're going for the character, his character is nowhere near as good as it is, because in the first one, he's this broken Vietnam vet. In the second, he's this typical 80s shirtless action hero with big muscles that just kills as many people, and you could tell in 2, this guy would never cry. This guy is not going to just break down and cry, and is not a broken person at all. He's just this typical 80s action hero. So this is a fantastic film. It's a perfect film, and I absolutely love it. Our runner-up is Terminator 2, Judgment Day. This was a punch in the face to have to put this in number 2, because I love this film. I think that this was a last minute switch. I wanted this film at number 1. It's just based on the holiday season coming up, I have to honor my feelings, and I just love everything about this film. I love the character arc for Arnold and how he slowly, for the first film, he's a killer who's trying his hardest to kill Sarah Connor, and I love her. I love how she goes from this nobody who just has to step up, and she then becomes this awesome action hero. And Arnold making him the action hero, revealing that in the trailers, I'm not going to deny, was stupid. They should have made that a surprise twist, but they could have done some stuff in editing that you could easily have made it look like he was the bad guy. So it was great having him as the main lead in the. Let's just be honest, the Terminator franchise really screws up their trailers. They have made they have 6 movies, and 3 of them have really screwed up their twists in the trailers. This being one of them, and Salvation and Genesis both really screwed that up even harder than T2. But this is just such a film that has a great character arc for Arnold. It's Terminator by the end where he learns the value of human life and is like, I know now you cry, but it's something I can never do. And if you have not already, please, does my Austrian accent suck? Because I need to know, do I need to do this Austrian accent more when I talk about Arnold, or do I need to completely forget it and say that I never actually did this, even though I know that I did, but I'm going to completely lie to myself because it was such an awful accent. But I just love it, and that clip is just so powerful. That competes heavily with the scene with Stallone breaking down and crying and saying, like, nothing is over, for the most shown clip on my channel, because those two are easily the 2 clips I've shown the most on my channel. But this is just such a fantastic film. It deserves all the praise it gets. This is probably going to be number 1 soon. It depends on my mood, and it depends on the day. It depends on most things. They switch around number 2, number 1 quite a bit, but at the moment I'm feeling number 2 on this one. But in first place, after a small little vacation from the number 1 spot, is Die Hard. This is my favorite Christmas movie of all time, and since it is now getting close to the Christmas season, this is my favorite movie of all time. When it's in the Christmas time, even if it is number 1, it's still number 1. If T2 is number 1 most of the time, Die Hard is my number 1. And because it's getting close to the Christmas time and it's starting to feel like Christmas, it's getting colder, and this is just such a great concept. It created its own genre. There's like now Die Hard on a plane, Die Hard in the White House. There's so many Die Hard like things that they're like, that's ripping off Die Hard. Like Air Force One, Speed, Skyscraper, Die Hard 2, all of them are basically just kind of like Die Hard, only they're very similar. Die Hard 2, I am saying yes, it is a lot like the first. It's kind of a rehash in a lot of ways. But it's a fun rehash. I have fun with it, but it's awful compared to the first because the first is perfect. It's a great movie. This is probably the only movie in the world that I could say like is perfect. I could not give a single flaw to it. If you put a bullet to my head, I would take the bullet and eat it. I can't name one flaw in this film. I love John McClane. He's just such a relatable action hero. And he's a great action hero. Like, he's not the biggest in terms of muscles like Arnold is, where he has the biggest muscles in the world. But he has, like, a receding hairline. He's in good shape, but he's not in the best shape of an 80s action hero. And he is just so clever. He has this, like, clever, funny wit to it. This is probably my favorite version of John McClane. He's just the wisecracking guy. This and Live Free or Die Hard, probably the funniest versions of John McClane. He's very funny and very wisecracking in both, but I probably give the edge to this one. It's very close, but they're both very funny versions of him. He's one that has one-liners, but he's also very funny. He's relatable. He's not someone who wants to be doing this. He's just having a bad day, and because he's the awesome, cool guy who is awesome and who's a police officer, he has to step in. And Hans Gruber, probably my favorite villain of all time. I just love how he's so suave. And yet, like you see early on with Takaki, if you mess around with this guy, or if you don't give this guy what he wants, you get a bullet to the head. Takaki is a very good example of that, and how this guy is not afraid to kill. He does not give a care when it comes to killing. He is, like, fine with it, and he does it many times, and it's brutal at times. And I love the third act. The third act is fantastic, and that scene where Hans falls is awesome. We all know that scene. Even if you have not seen that scene, I don't even need to say spoiler, because we all know. Even if you haven't seen the film, you know Hans dies, because it's like the most famous scene from the movie, seeing him like slowly die. And if you're wondering why the reaction from Hans is so great, it's not only because Alan Rickman is such a good actor, it's also because they didn't tell him they were going to drop him on. It's also because they didn't tell him they were going to drop him on. I mean, they said they were going to drop him on 3, but in the actual thing, they intentionally wanted to get a good reaction from Alan Rickman, so they dropped him on 2. They went 1, 2, they then dropped him. So if you're wondering why Alan Rickman looks genuinely terrified when he's falling, it's because he actually was genuinely terrified, because they tricked him thinking, because he thought he was gonna be deaded on 3. So it was just so funny. So I absolutely love this film. So it is easily number 1 in this ranking. There you have it, everyone. That is my ranking of my top 20 favorite movies of all time. At number 20 is Halloween. At number 19 is Jaws. At number 18 is The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring. At number 17 is Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. At number 16 is Jurassic Park. At number 15 is Scream. At number 14 is We Bought a Zoo. At number 13 is The Matrix. At number 12 is John Wick Chapter 4. At number 11 is The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King. At number 10 is Star Wars. At number 9 is The Dark Knight. At number 8 is The Terminator. At number 7 is Rocky. At number 6 is Raiders of the Lost Ark. At number 5 is Predator. At number 4 is Aliens. And in our top 3, at number 3, which are very interchangeable, by the way, they swap around quite a bit, but this is how I'm feeling at the moment. But number 3 is First Blood. Number 2 is Terminator 2 Judgment Day. And number 1 is Die Hard. And this was really hard to come up with, because number 1, 2, and 3 constantly keep punching each other in the faces and just keep switching places with each other. I can't stand it. They're just such masterpieces. First Blood lately has been trying its hardest and is right now getting close to top 2. It's close. I can't stand how it just keeps, it's on the nose, but it just doesn't want to make that jump yet. It's so annoying, but that is my top 20 of all time. Please make sure to share your top 10 or top 20 in the comments below. If you have seen all 20 of the films that I have seen that are in my top 20, make sure that you share your ranking of all 20 in the comments below, of my top 20 in the comments below. Thank you all so much for watching, and have a good one.